Good evening, everyone. I, CA Pragya Jain, on behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee of ICAI, welcome all the participants in today's webcast on thinking skill in the age of AI. First of all, I welcome today's resource person, Bhavna Tiwari ji, and other present over here. And it's my immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Bhavna Kumari ji. She is an innovative learning and development leader with over 25 years of progressive experience in crafting high impact learning ecosystem, designing leadership program, and conducting immersive training intervention. Certified in NLP, she is an instrumental designer, neuroscience of learning and physiology with extensive facilitation experience for ICI, corporates, and academic institutions. She is a published author and passionate mentor committed to cultivating inclusive, high-performing learning environments. She authored the book Aim High, Unleash the Potential of Effective Learning, published on Amazon, focuses on scientific and physiological techniques for learning transformation. One more thing I wanted to say, question will be provided during the session as and when asked by the participant in the chat box. And we again welcome you, Bhavna ji, and over to you. The session is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, CA Pragya, for the wonderful introduction that you gave. And I welcome all the participants who have chosen to be a part of this program, which is Thinking Skills in the Age of AI. You know, when you have chosen to spend your time to explore the different components of thinking skills in the age of AI, you're actually, when you're spending Wednesday evening, this really means a lot, right? Why? I was thinking, because this shows that, and this is a testament to the fact that you are a lifelong learner. You're committed to learning, evolving, and moving ahead in the world of the changes, where the changes is not only moving at a slower pace, but it is changing as fast as it has never been, right? So I welcome all the brilliant minds here in this 2 hours workshop. And without wasting time, let's go ahead and let me share my screen with you. I hope you all can see my screen, right? So before getting into the details of thinking skills in the age of AI, I want to ask you a question, and I have a way to get your response. I'll show you that. I want to ask you, when there are plenty of AI tools available, like for example, ChatGPT, CAGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Notebook LM, right? AI. What is that one thing which separates chartered accountant, or which differentiates chartered accountants than anyone else? You can see my screen. Just go ahead, scan the QR code, or you can log into slido.com and enter the code 1797441, and you will be able to reply. It may be one word, 2 words, but then I encourage you to write quickly. And there will be 30 seconds to answer this. I repeat, when there are so many tools available which can do so many things, they can draft audit summaries, predictive and risk, right? They can analyze the data pattern, they can suggest track strategies. So there is something which sets us apart from others. And what is that thing? 2 ways: you can scan the QR code, or you can go to slido.com and enter the code as hash 1797411. Let me see how many of you have responded. Okay, I can see your 2 response. I'm expecting some more responses here. Some more responses quickly. Can we get some more response? You just need to quickly scan the QR code, or you can quickly type in slido.com and enter hash 1797411. You will be able to answer. Human judgment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for responses. And throughout the presentation, We are not taking the response in the chat, but then I will be sharing QR code, and I encourage you to scan the QR code and share response, right? See, there is no right or wrong answer. It is only about participation. Thank you so much. I'm getting encouraged now, right? So somebody is saying physical interaction, well said. Somebody is saying experience and knowledge, intelligence, human judgment. Yes, very well said. And all the answers which you're giving is absolutely right, right? So all these are components of thinking skills. Thinking skills is something, yeah, I can see more responsive decision making. So thinking skills, my friends, is something which sets us apart from others, right? Now let's see. Wow, I can see some more responses coming in. Our education, our judgment, our interaction, our logic and brain. And yes, we will see how this is going to make a difference in our lives, right? I'm moving ahead. So what we're going to learn, I'll quickly tell you, we are going to learn by the end of the session, we will be able to apply critical thinking. We will be able to apply the principles of design thinking so that we can empathize with our stakeholders, we can understand their pain points, and we would be able to develop a small, simple prototype, and we should be able to test them effectively. Also, we will see that what are the angles of negotiation skills and practice human-centered approach, which will enhance our role beyond what automation or AI can provide. So these are some of the set of learning objectives which we are intended to achieve by the end of the session. Now let's see what are thinking skills actually. What are the components of thinking skills? So if you see the framework includes 3 different skills. So these are, number one is critical thinking. Critical thinking, it actually talks about questioning the assumptions. So it says that, and we will see or deep dive into all these 3 separately. I'm just telling you in one word or maybe a few words, critical thinking is about questioning the assumptions. We should not just accept the assumption on the face of it, but then we should be able to question the assumption. Design thinking is an innovative way to approach any problem, right? So how can we solve a problem through innovative way, through a structured process, which design thinking provides? And the third one is negotiation skills. Negotiation skills, it talks about how can we build trusted relations, sustainable relations with our co-workers, with our professional partners. Now let's see what are these all and how does this impacts our life. So first I'll talk about critical thinking. What is critical thinking? I'm sure something is coming to mind, right? That what is critical thinking? Just hold on to the answer and let me answer and see whether the point which you're holding in your mind, is it matching with the definition which I'm going to share? So critical thinking is not only analysis. It is far beyond analysis. So what is that? This is about questioning the assumptions. This is about asking the right kind of questions, right? And this is about the evidences which we see. We need to evaluate that evidences, and then we make the balanced judgment. So in a formal words, critical thinking is a disciplined art of asking right kind of questions, evaluating the evidences which we come across, and based on these, we make the conclusions, we make the judgments which is balanced and ethical and sustainable. Right? Now, I have included some of the examples here, and I'm sure you will be able to relate to, because day in, day out, we do these tasks. It's like auditing financial accounts, we are involved into. We advise our clients on compliance issues, and we also interpret what kind of regulatory changes is happening in our environment, right? 3 things we're talking about. And I want you to pay attention. The question I'm going to ask you here is, while carrying out these responsibilities, while auditing the financial accounts, when we're advising our clients on compliance, and when we're interpreting the regulatory changes, what are we actually doing? I'm sure you must have thought of what we're doing. Another question is, are we only looking at the numbers? Do you think we are data checkers here? No. The obvious answer is no. What we are doing is far beyond checking the numbers, right? We are actually questioning the assumptions which has been made in the decision-making process. We are spotting those risks, those hidden risks, I would say, which others may overlook, right? And we are ensuring that the decisions or the conclusions which we are making are ethical, fair, and justifiable. We also see whether the decisions which we're making are sustainable or not. So it is not only about looking at the data, looking at the numbers, but then this is something which is far beyond looking at the numbers. I'm sure you are in sync with me, right? Now I'm moving ahead and I'm going to present this to you that critical thinking, it acts as a professional compass in our professional journey. How? When we are auditing, when we are questioning the assumptions, we are not taking the assumptions on the face of it, right? And we'll see this through case study, through examples in the coming slides, right? When we are performing the role of advisor and when we are interpreting the regulation with context, we also see that critical thinking is something which protects us from the pressure of taking convenient shortcuts, right? Which may impact our integrity. This also protects us from the pressure of accepting the assumptions on the face of it. Instead, it allows us to challenge it, validate it, and see whether it is ethical or sustainable. So that's the reason we say that the critical thinking is something which is our guide, which is our coach, which is more like a compass during our entire professional journey, right? Now I'll show you some of the examples of critical thinking and how critical thinking is and why critical thinking is important in the age of AI, right? I'm sure you're aware of, and you must be heard of, must have used those AI tools. AI tools, you must have seen that the AI tools, they can generate audit summaries, right? They can analyze the entire financial report. They can check the data patterns, they can analyze the data, and they can create awesome, wonderful reports with all the analytics. It is very fast, very accurate, very efficient. It can even predict risk, right? It can even suggest strategy. So if AI can do everything, why are we here? Or what is the importance of being human involved in the process? Why? Because there is a danger. What kind of danger? The danger is that AI does not fully understand the context, right? AI does not fully understand the ethics and the law, right? We all know that AI, artificial intelligence, these are based on large language models, what we call it as LLMs. And they are being trained on thousands and thousands and thousands of data sets, which means that the output which we get from the AI is actually based on the data sets on which it has been trained. So the output which we are getting is based on the input which we have given or fed into the AI tool. So what AI can does, AI can beautifully process the data, but then it cannot offer judgment. The judgment has to come from the chartered accountants, from human beings built on critical thinking, right? Because AI does not offer judgment, AI does not hold accountability, it does not hold responsibility, it does not have any kind of moral reasoning. It is simply giving you the reply basis on the input which we have fed into the tool, right? For example, a scenario I'm talking about. Scenario is, for example, you are engaged with a client and one of the AI tool has proposed you very aggressive tax saving strategy, right? The tax saving strategy, it looks brilliant on the paper and technically it works. But it is our role, it is the role of chartered accountant to ask the right kind of questions. So when I'm saying right kind of questions, we need to ask, is this ethical? Is this sustainable? Will this put my client into any kind of reputational risk? Will this put my client into any other kind of legalities or penalties, because AI can propose, but then AI does not cover all the angles, and AI is not responsible, not accountable. It has no moral reasoning for any kind of penalties or legal risk or reputational risk if a client goes into, right? So we should be, we are the one who should be asking right kind of questions to get the right kind of answers, to offer the judgment, to get the human judgment, and these are built on the critical thinking, right? I hope I'm making sense. Maybe if not, I mean, if you want some kind of tweaking or something, you can connect with moderator and I can modify it further, right? Again, I'm assuming that it is making sense. And I'll move ahead and I'll share another example. And the example is, for example, you are auditing a company, right? And you see that everything is neat, clean, everything seems to be proper. But then you have got a slightest of hinge that probably there is one transaction is not adding up. So what would you do? You will just go ahead and sign the report, or you will wait for the hidden truth to get uncovered, or would you like to get deep dive into the report so that you can uncover the truth? I'm sure the answer is you will, because of the hinge or because of the instinct which you're getting, you will like to deep dive so that you can see what is the reality. And the choice which you have made to take a deep dive is because of critical thinking, right? So the choice to probe it further is actually critical thinking. And this is what transforms us from data checkers to trusted advisors. So critical thinking is something which which is telling us that don't accept all the assumptions on the face of it. We should try to question those assumptions, which is impacting the result, right? And there comes the role of which AI cannot do. So there comes the role of critical thinking. Now, the framework I want to share with you is, there's a framework which you should apply while applying critical thinking. So there are 5 steps, and I'll show you a case study after that, and we will see that how does this apply to the case study. So as you can see, the first step in the critical thinking ladder is that we should be questioning the assumptions, as we have been discussing so far. So which means we should challenge the idea on the face of it. We should be validating the assumptions which have been given. For example, you may be given to understand that there was a dip or decline in the profit because the receivables were not so good, or maybe there was a slowdown in the market, right? I'm giving an example. I'll show you this in detail. So you should be able to challenge that uh, assumption which have been given, right? So when I say challenge, you should be able to check whether this is correct or not. Once you've challenged, you will look for the evidences. You will refer to different reports, you will seek out for the facts and the data, right? And once your facts are in place, you will try to connect the dots so that you can relate the information together. Once your puzzle pieces are joined, you can see the entire picture, right? And you can consider what are the different alternatives. And once the alternatives, you can see, you can actually draw conclusions out of these alternatives, right? I repeat, only the steps, and then we will go to case study where you will see the application of it, right? So number 1 step, as we see in the ladder, first is you are questioning the assumption. Second is you're looking for the facts and the data, looking for the evidences. Once you have your evidences in place, you are connecting the dots, right? Fourth is you are considering alternatives. And fifth is you are drawing the conclusions once your alternatives are in place, right? With this, I'm moving to the case study and we will see the application of all these 5 steps. I would encourage everyone to participate in the case study. Please scan the QR code I request all of you to scan the QR code, and it will not ask you to sign in. So we will not get to know your name, right? So no human judgment comes into picture. Just submit your response, maybe a few words, one line, and we will review the insight together. Let me share my Google Form screen where we will see the case study together. Okay, before that, I hope you have okay, let me show you this again. The QR code in case if you have missed. Please scan this QR code. I encourage all the participants. Please scan the QR code. This is same. Either you can click on this. So the better way is that scan the QR code. You can go to the case, read it, and we will review the insights together. Okay. Now, I'll share my case study. I request all of you to share your thoughts. Just go through it. This case study one, it talks about the mysterious dip in profits. I can read this out for you. It talks about a mid-sized retail company was experiencing a sudden 10% decline in profits. This quarter, if you compare this to the previous quarter, and the management says the only explanation is that sales have dropped because of the market slowdown. I could see one response. I request all of you to share more responses. If you're engaged, then you learn more effectively, right? That is called as active learning. So don't learn passively, learn as actively. Okay, so management says the only explanation is that sales have dropped because of the market slowdown. We need to cut sales staff or reduce marketing expense, right? So they have drawn the conclusion as well, the management, according to the management. Everyone seems ready to accept the explanation, but one analyst who is a chartered accountant, he decides to probe deeper, applying critical thinking. How do you reflect on this? How can we actually apply critical thinking here? I'll wait for a few moments. I want to see some more responses coming in. I know we have all brilliant minds here, all experienced people here, and no responses right or wrong. Thank you so much for the responses. Yeah, very true. I mean, all the responses I think is right. And as I said, no response is right or wrong. Scan the QR code, and yes, 4 responses. Wonderful. Superb. So first is it says that check deep, then decide. Superb, based on the facts. Whether it is due to some technical development, amazing. We have to see at whole picture level. I really appreciate everybody's response. No retained staff once market picks up. It will be difficult to engage skilled employees. Okay. Someone has said that find ways to pivot to other moves. Superb. Check the market conditions by evaluating financials of competitor too. Superb. There's so many angles. See, so many thoughts coming in, all the brilliant thoughts. I would be reflecting on costs of production. Great. Due to inflation, input costs have increased. And why the profits have declined. Input costs may increase. So many responses I could see. I can see the engagement level is really, really high. Right now, how would I take this up? We all have seen the ladder, the critical thinking ladder, right? So first it says that question the assumption, right? Question the assumption, those assumptions which will impact themselves. So the assumption here which has been given is decline in profit is because of the market slowdown, right? This is the assumption which we have been given here. I mean, the analyst has been given who has decided to probe further. So first is we need to see that is this actually the case, right? And once you have seen it, you need to see whether the decline in profit, is it really because of the market slowdown? So you're challenging this. Then you are looking for the evidences. So evidences could be, you will look for the reports, right? You will see that there are different kinds of reports or data or the facts. And while looking at the reports, you could see that there was sharp increase in the logistic cost, right? This is an example I'm sharing, case study, the case study which we are discussing here. So first is I question the assumption. Second is I'm looking for the evidences. So while I was looking for the responses, I saw that there was sharp increase in the logistic cost, and there were a couple of new vendors onboarded. So these are two evidences which I've got. Another, as an analyst, I saw that the sales were, it was almost the same which was in the earlier previous quarter, right? So which means if the sale is not changed, what is there which has led to decline in profits? So now we can connect all the dots. So the reason could be, which I saw according to, as an analyst, I saw after deep diving into the data, that there is an increase in the logistic cost, and the new vendors are also, they have been onboarded. Now, what could be the possible regions? So the possible regions in this case could be maybe the negotiation with the new vendors were very poor. They were not negotiated in an effective manner, right? Another could be that the routing which the inventories is being, the way the inventory is being routed, maybe it is not so effective, right? Or it could be that the supply chain planning was not very effective. So these are the alternatives which the analysts figured out. Or maybe the vendors, they are overcharging, right? So these could be because of the increase in the logistic cost, the margin has reduced, and which has led to decline in profit, right? So we can draw conclusions from this. So it is, what will be the conclusion? That increase in the logistic cost is the reason for decline in 10% decline in profits, and it is not the market slowdown, right? So the outcome which comes from the case study is that basis the approach of critical thinking which was adopted by the analyst, the management now is more focused on the effective planning of the sales chain planning, right? And they want to now renegotiate with the vendors. They want to see that how are they charging and how they are routing the inventories, right? So the result would be there will be no cut in the sales staff, or they will not reduce the marketing expense. Otherwise, this could have hurt the growth of the organization, right? So if we see any case and we apply all these steps like questioning assumptions, you look for the evidences and you connect the dots, and then you consider the alternatives, then out of these you're drawing a conclusion. In that case, you will be able to make out the real reason behind the problem, right? Here, the root cause of profit dip was increase in logistic expense, and it was not the market slowdown. And the management, as I said, the outcome was they wanted to renegotiate with the vendors. They wanted to again check the how the supply chain planning is done, right? So instead of blaming the market, the company took the corrective action. So which means it actually shows that critical thinking is equal to challenging assumptions. And we can see numbers are only the starting points. They are not the answer, right? Because what happens in our daily responsibility, many times we are being told that this is the reason. But then critical thinking allows us to pause and think, is this really the reason? Right? I hope it is making sense to you. And I could see 8 responses here. And thank you so much for responses. And I will go to the presentation now. Give me a moment. Now we'll talk about, I'm just sharing my presentation. We'll talk about our superpower in the age of AI. Yeah, right. So critical thinking is like our superpower in the age of AI. Why? Because it allows us to pause and think. It allows us to filter myth from the biases. It allows us to filter legalities from convenience. This allows us to ask right kind of questions. And asking right kind of questions is very important in our profession than having all the right answers, right? This is a part of our profession. So critical thinking is something which also allows us to check whether the conclusions which we're making are ethical and sustainable or not. As we saw, it is more like a professional compass. Okay, so it is really important in the age of AI, where AI is doing everything, but then AI can't offer judgment. As we saw, AI is not, it can't be held responsible, can't be held accountable. It will not give us the moral reasoning, right? Now I've come to the quiz part. So multiple choice question, one quiz, just to check your understanding, to assess, which you can assess only, right? And just to make it more engaging, as I said, and to make you more active learners. Please scan the QR code. 30 seconds is the time which I'll give you for answering this, because there's a multiple choice question. You'll have to just click on the right answer two ways. Either you scan the QR code or go to slido.com and enter the code #1797411. I want to see more responses coming in. So please join the quiz as quickly as possible. What is this? Nanil is what? Okay, your names. Okay. Super. Wonderful, Sumit. Wonderful, Nanil. Please join the quiz. And here is the quiz. Quiz is, should I read it out? Our company's profit, depth, management blame sales. What else should you check before agreeing? You all know it's very easy peasy, right? What all should we check? Should we check logistic costs? Should we check receivables collections? Should we check expense, or should we check all? 30 seconds. I'm sure you all have responded. Should I go ahead and check? Okay. 50% of you said expenses, 50% of you said all of the above. The answer is all of the above, right? And as I said, thank you so much for your attempt. And no answer is right or wrong. Expense is definitely a right answer, but then others are also right. So that's the reason all of the above is the right. Because if there is any change, as we saw in the case study, in the logistic cost, your margin will reduce, right? If there is change in expense, definitely margin will reduce. If there is any change in receivables and collection, again, it will impact. So that's the reason the real answer is all of the above. Okay. So this one is the right answer. So the idea we are making here is at times the narrative we have been given by the organization is there's decline in profit, and sales people, they are responsible, they're not working efficiently, right? So what will you do? You will actually question the assumption, and you will deep dive into the other factors to see that whether the narrative which have been given to you is correct, or it needs tweak, or it needs to be changed or modified, right? So with this, oh, can we have a big round of applause for IBS Raju? Okay, 1 out of 1. Superb. So it does not mean that only 3 have participated. Many participated. Maybe it's taking the top 1 and 2. And congratulations to Reena Kal as well. To both of you, IBS Raju and Reena Kal. Great performance. Great performance to all of you who's attempted, right? So I request all of you to attempt this. Now, because you will be seeing many quizzes coming in between. Okay, now it is the video time. I'll share my video with you. And I request all of you to take notes as well. When you take notes, it actually retains, it ingrains in your brain. That's the reason I request all of you to take few notes. Let me share the video with you. This is on critical thinking.
The right questions. Questions that help you assess both the meaning and the significance of claims and arguments. Building these skills and applying them in your life makes it easier for you to assess evidence, evaluate arguments, and adapt your thinking so you stay switched on and engaged in different situations. Critical thinking involves stepping back from a situation to enable you to see all the angles before making judgments or taking decisions. It means identifying the key points, analyzing the sources of information, weighing up different types of evidence, just as a judge and jury would do in a court of law, and putting it all together into your own independent, thought-through point of view. One thing that it's very important to realize is that critical thinking isn't about being critical. And it's about much more than just finding flaws in other people's claims. By itself, that isn't enough to give you an edge. To be a true critical thinker means being creative, reflective, and adaptable, evaluating the evidence to decide for yourself what is accurate, what is relevant, and do I have sufficient information to take a decision on this topic? Thinking critically means taking a stand for yourself. It can be difficult not to be swayed by close family or friends' views on things, or certain beliefs that just feel right. But learning how to use these higher-order thinking skills can help you to feel much more confident in your own opinions and conclusions. Critical thinking is also about a sense of discovery and excitement. Not only about learning, but evaluating arguments to see how they stand up, and filtering for yourself what resonates as right or wrong. By using these techniques, you'll find yourself becoming a clearer, better thinker. MCAT. Learn better.
I hope you found it useful. It mentioned a couple of points, if you have noticed. It says that critical thinking does not mean being critical, right? It says that it does mean that we should be more reflective, adaptive, and we should have sufficient evidence to question the assumptions, right? So all the videos which we are watching, definitely it will give you something which will definitely add to what we have just seen now. Now let me go back to the slide again, and this makes me now move to the another part of thinking skills. And what is that? We've seen in the framework is design thinking, right? Okay, and let's move ahead. And again, I'll ask you a question here. It seems, yeah. There are 4 different images. One is a toothpaste, another is an ATM, third one is Maggi noodles, and the fourth one is a cart. Why I'm showing you these images? Any idea? I'm showing you these images just to tell you that these are the products of design thinking innovation. Initially, when if you have seen the toothpaste, they had this cap with a screw, right? So what kids used to do, they had to use both the hands. Anybody will, if there is screw, then you will have to use both the hands. And the kids, they ended up messing the entire wash machine, or you may lose it, right? So this was the problem statement of the challenges we were facing. So with the innovation of design thinking, we'll see design thinking in details. I just wanted to tell you that these are all products of design thinking innovation, right? So the screw caps were replaced by the flip-flop caps. Now it is difficult to lose it. With one hand, you can squeeze the toothpaste, right? So this was comfort, convenience for the kids, for the parents, and for the users. Second is ATM, right? There was a time when there was no ATM. We used to go stand in the line, fill the form, withdraw the cash. So there was urgent, when there is urgency, how will you withdraw cash? So this was a challenge which was coming to the bankers, that how can people, they can withdraw cash during non-banking hours, right? So this was a challenge. Again, it was studied, empathized. We'll see all this in details, right? That what are the stages, what are the phases of design thinking. And then this product came into the picture. And now everywhere we see ATMs. And this 24 by 7, 24 hours and 7 days a week, right? We can withdraw cash anytime when we want. Now, there was another challenge with parents, working parents were facing, that they wanted a tasty and 2 minutes snacks for their kids. So this was a challenge. And the product which came was 2 minutes noodles. Now, the fourth one, which I put it here, is the shopping cart. Earlier, the shopping carts were very bulky, right? It was difficult to carry, especially when you're going with your kids. You will have to carry your kids and the stuff which you're picking in the supermarket. It becomes a little inconvenient for you to push the bulky carts, right? Then this was analyzed, read, studied, problem statement was defined, and the lightweight uh, shopping cart along with a place where the kid can also sit. There's a place, right? We all know. And this came into the picture. So these are all the products of design thinking innovations, right? So there are so many things which you can look around. These are all products of design thinking. And if we are going to apply this in our work area, whether audit or taxation or advisory, you can imagine what kind of change it can bring. So design thinking, let me tell you, my friends, it is not only for the product per se, it applies in all the areas. It is for the service as well, which we provide to our internal clients or to our external clients, right? So when I say internal clients, when I'm working with the corporate, my departmental heads, my CEO, CFOs, they are all internal clients. If I'm a practicing chartered accountant, the clients with whom we work, they are external clients. So that's the reason I used here two words, internal clients or external clients. Now let's see what is actually design thinking. Is it only meant for designers? No, it is meant for everyone, because we are talking about designing a product or a service, right, or a solution, keeping the human or the user in the center. Let's see and we also call this as human-centered problem solving, right? In all the phases of design thinking, we keep the user in the center. Will this really solve the problem of the user? We see that, right? Okay, before I deep dive, I want to ask you a question. And the question here is, imagine the scenario is you are the engagement partner and a CFO, okay? Your team has prepared an audit reports on financial statements. These are to be presented to three different stakeholders. The stakeholders are like startup founder, promoter, or board member, and investor. Do you think what do you think actually that how would all these three different stakeholders, they will look at the report? Would they look exactly in the same way because the report is same? Will they? No, the answer is no. Why? Because the startup founder is laser focused on the cash flow survival, right? Board member is focused more on the risk and the compliance part. Investors would be more focused on the growth, on the ROI, right? So what did you notice here? I'm sure you must have noticed the numbers are same, but the meaning of number changes. It depends on who is reading the report, right? And that is the whole essence of design thinking. That whatever we are designing solution related to product or a service, we should keep the user or the human in the center, right? So as I said, the numbers don't change, but the meaning, it does changes depending on who is reading it. And I just said, this is the entire essence of the design thinking, that we put the human being, in the center, the user for whom we are designing the solution. So it is far beyond the numbers. And this is something which actually transforms us from technical experts to trusted advisors of our clients, right? So this shows that the solution which we are designing, the meaning would be different for different stakeholders. Now let's see the formal definition. Okay, before we see, I wanted to ask you one more question, and the question is, in your work, in your work area, have you ever got a chance to see processes which are only designed for rules? These are very rule oriented and non people oriented. I wanted to hear, I wish, but then, yes, I'm sure you know this in your mind. There are many processes, for example, tax notices. Tax notices, they're full of jargons, right? They are more rule oriented. They are less people oriented, I would say. KYC forms when we go to the bank, okay, we fill this online. These are mostly, there's so many and so many information with the sake. They are mainly meant for the rules, less for clarity. If you're working in a corporate, there's so many policies, for example, travel policies, like leave policies. And you will see that the policies they have been designed, it's easy for the rule makers because it looks like there's more rule oriented and less people oriented, right? So definitely we need to follow the compliance. However, we should make it user friendly. If it is not user friendly, then it obviously it fails drastically. People fill it because it is out of compulsion, not out of willingness. So it should be designed in such a way that in addition to the compliance, it should be user friendly. And that's where comes the design thinking. There's a formal definition. Design thinking is actually a structured, creative problem solving methodology which puts the user in the center for every solution. And for us, for chartered accountants, this is a fundamental shift from purely being technical expert, right, towards understanding the needs of clients for whom we are designing the solutions. And this we are doing through innovative approaches. We'll see this how. There are 5 different steps of design thinking. You can see here in the image. And why this is circular? Because this is iterative. Iterative means, say for example, I'll first tell you the steps are empathize. What are these? We'll see this. We'll deep dive into each of these steps. First is empathize, right? Empathize with whom? With the users, with the clients, for example. Then second is define, which is defining the problem statement. We'll see all this in detail, as I said. Ideating is about generating creative solutions. Prototype means testing with one client or with one user, right? Checking this with one user. And testing is you are checking the solution with multiple users, and then you do the mass rollout. Now, for example, in the testing phase, if you think that something goes wrong, you again you complete the cycle. Or maybe you can just go back to the prototype. You can tweak some changes, and then again you go to test, right? So this happens in all the stages. So which means you can go back and forth, That's the reason I'm saying it is an iterative process, right? Now let's see what are these phases. So to start with, the first stage is empathize. When I say empathize, I'm sure you're aware of the word empathy, which talks about keeping yourself in client shoes or in other shoes to understand that what they are going through, right? So empathize means understanding the pain points of our clients. So when I'm using the word client, this could be internal or external, right? So that's the reason I'm using a generic word called as client. So this applies to all, whether you're working in a corporate, whether you are practicing chartered accountant, right? So this applies to all the professions, in all the roles, I mean, right? So empathize means understanding the pain points of our clients. So how can we do that? We need to keep ourselves in the shoes of the client, and we need to see it beyond the numbers, that what is the real pain. For example, if my client is delaying in submitting the audit documents, what could be the possible reason? right? Mostly we say that you don't send papers on time. You know that now it's audit time. I have been telling you this, but then I've not received your documents. So what is the reason that why is delaying you in sending the audit docs? We need to understand that as well. So that is called as empathy, right? So what are the points and empathize? First step, as we know, of the design thinking process. This, as I said, this means we need to understand that what kind of need is there or what are the pain points of our stakeholders, right? So it is not only about listening numbers. There's far beyond that. Listening, what is the real concern of our client, right? So this helps us to build trusted, sustainable relationship. This will also help us to uncover the hidden needs, which you may not be able to see in the reports. And this applies in all the work areas. For example, we are in different roles. We know we are in roles of advisory, audit, compliance. So empathize, first step, or the design thinking process, this applies in all the areas of our work area, personal area, everywhere, we can see, right? Now, what are the tools which you can use to understand the pain points of our client? So it could be shadowing. When I say shadowing, shadowing means you are observing that what kind of work they're doing, how are they doing, what are the challenges that they're facing, right? So sit with them for spend some time with them, just observe how they're working. So observation, and you discuss through meetings, discussion, interviews, you will be able to understand that what are the pain points or what is the real need of a client. And we'll see the examples also, right? Now, uh, here's an example, and this is example. I'm sure we all have faced this. So think of a time a client or a manager is delayed in giving you the data, right? The data or the documents which you need. So why do you think they delayed? We know that they have delayed, but then why the choice of going behind the facts, going beyond the numbers is actually empathy. There we're trying to understand that what may have gone wrong. So why do you think they delayed? What might be going on in their world? There could be so many reasons, right? For example, they are apprehensive of the fact that they have made some mistake and they don't want to get exposed to, right? Could be one. Another could be like they're overworked. They are so much stuck in a new product and in a new product launch that they had no time. Another could be that they don't understand the why of giving data. Why is this document important? Why is this data important? Right? Because we have given them a long list of documents which we need. It is so lengthy that the client or the manager has got overwhelmed, that it's a long list. Which one should I give? Which one I should hold? And why do they really need it? Right? So there could be so many reasons behind delaying the data. So as I said, maybe they're overloaded with priorities. Maybe they don't know the why this was required. Until the why is clear, they're reluctant to give you the data, right? And they also felt maybe the request was not very clear. It's a long list, and there's so much of back and forth of emails, right? So much of confusion. So they had this apprehension that if we give the data again, they'll ask me some question. This is not there. That was not there, right? So they did not have maybe they did not have an organized system for retrieving documents also. You ask for a document, they don't have, maybe it was gone or lost or not kept properly. So it is because it was not very organized. They don't have an organized system for retrieving documents. So what happens when we empathize, when we get into their shoes, we realize that they have not done it deliberately. The delays are not deliberate. It may be because of the confusion, maybe because of the or they have other priorities, or maybe they have the fear of being exposed, right? So if we see the point, if we see the challenge, which we see this as only as a statement that their client is getting delayed in giving the data. If we see this from other angle, from their angle. The other angle is from their angle. We can actually understand the genuine cause behind it, and only then we can work towards it. We will see how this can be worked out, right? We'll see the case study at the end, and we can figure out how all these can be resolved through design thinking, right? So this was the first step of design thinking. Second one, now we are going to is after you have understood that what are the pain points, what do? You actually define the problem statement. That's the second stage, define. When you're defining the problem statement, we need to ensure that it should be very specific. It should be human oriented or user oriented, right? And it should be actionable. It should not be vague. For example, if you're saying the client delays in giving you the documents or the data, it is very vague, right? So let's see what is actually defined. So defined, as I said, it means that the observations which we have captured from empathy, we need to convert this into a problem statement. And we need to look for the patterns in the pain points, or what are the needs which is unmet, which can be resolved, which should be resolved, right? So when we are, as I said, when we are defining the problem statement, we need to see this clearly from the user point of view. And also we need to see that it should be actionable. There should not be any jargon. It should be simple. For example, there are two examples here. Client has liquidity issues. Another example, clients don't share audit data on time, right? These are two statements. Do you think these are good problem statements? These are specific, or do you see any human angle here? Human angle is only that the client, what is dues, they have this issue, but then do you see any solution here which will be acted on? Any action? No, right? So we need to specify these two statements are really vague. So when we are defining the problem, because I'm sure you're aware of the fact that if you are able to define a problem, which means you have got half of the solution, right? So this is one of the most important step in the entire design thinking process, right? So instead of saying client has liquidity issues, we should make it very specific, human-centered, and actionable. So we can write, or we can say clients they cannot predict when customer payments will come, creating stress in meeting payrolls and vendor obligations. This is just an example. It could be other problems as well for different client depends. And that's the reason the action is they need a simple real-time cash flow tracker to plan payments. Okay. So now I'm sure we have got an idea that instead of writing a very short and vague problem statement, try to make it very specific, keep the user in center, and make it very actionable. That what is the action we're going to take, right? The action here is they need a simple real-time cash flow tracker to plan payments. Now, another statement, as I showed you, is clients, they don't share audit data on time, right? So this is again very vague, not specific. So the right explanation could be clients, what they need a simpler, transparent way to share data that reduces back and forth and saves time, right? So action here is what we need to design here, a simple or transparent way so that they can share audit data, right? And what will happen? This will reduce the back and forth email transactions or back and forth discussions, right? So this is very specific, human-centered, and actionable. So this is the second stage of the design thinking, right? As I said, defining the problem is half the solution. If we define it poorly, we may solve the wrong thing. We will not be solving the right thing. We may solve the wrong thing brilliantly, but then we still fail to meet the client's need. So this stage is really important, that how you are defining a problem statement, right? Now, there is one question which I want to ask you, and it is tax notices. We all know it actually they confuse our clients, right? Because we know it's full of jargons. So how would you define this problem, which is more user-centric, more client-centered, and a shift focus from your frustration to client's experience? Because when they get tax notices, they actually thoroughly confuse our clients. So how can we define this? One of the example, client struggles with tax notices. Do you think this is actionable? There is no action. There's only the statement. However, we just uh, saw that it should be specific, human-centered, and actionable. So let me see another option. It says that clients find tax notices full of jargon and unclear about what is going to happen next, unclear about the next step. And this causes anxiety. So what they need, the action is they need a one-pager explainer format showing what the notice is, what the notice means, what action is required, and by when, right? So this is the action. So if we can give them a one-pager format, maybe an Excel sheet, where we can write that these are the jargons and what does this mean? What do you need to do by what time? So this will simplify their life. And so that's the reason this is a good problem statement. A, a strong problem statement is actually about the client's need. It is not just the our pain point, it's not just the CS pain point. So if we're able to define it, it will resolve the pain points of both the client and the advisor, right? With this, we are moving towards the third stage of design thinking. And the third stage, it talks about ideation. When I say ideation, ideation means generating creative solutions. It does not mean you are changing the entire technology. We are putting some more new system altogether. No, it may be looking at the problems through new angles, through different ways. Because now, since you have empathized, you know their pain points, you have defined the statement, you know that what is the action you're going to take, right? So what you're doing here, we are generating the creative solutions. Because mostly what happens, we only stop at the compliance. So in this stage pushes you hard, and it pushes you to add value, right? And as I said, this encourages out of box solutions. It is not only the safer option, but then any option which is coming to your mind, it could be very wide as well. But then when you're ideating multiple solutions, you should take a note of it, right? Write everything, but whatever you think may be this may be the possible solution. And what are the tools we can use? The tools we can use is brainstorming with the departmental heads, right? Asking them the questions, how might we could resolve this? What are the possible solutions? On mind mapping, I'm sure you're aware of mapping. I will show you also one example. Mind mapping is a tool where you keep one idea in the center and you have all different branches which radiates from the main branches, and these are all ideas related to the central theme. I'll show you this in the next slide. Now, the example here is, for example, clients, they become overwhelmed by tax compliance reminders, right? Genuine reason, we all face this. Because again, this is a jargon heavy, these reminders are, they may not able to make out what is this, why is this, by when I can give this, right? So if I have this problem statement, what are the solutions? What are the creative solutions which I can come up with? Maybe we can give them a color coded tracker, right? Maybe we can have a visual calendar with color coded categories, or we can give them WhatsApp reminder, or briefly we can have a client call wherein we can talk about that. These are things which is needed, right? These are things which we have already received. This is in progress, partially received, maybe yellow, received, maybe green, red could be not received yet, right? So these are some of the ideas which can be generated for the challenge where clients become overwhelmed, right? So we can create maybe we can create a visual calendar with different color coded categories. We can give them WhatsApp reminder. And it's good that we should have a quarterly call wherein you can brief about the details of the compliance reminders, right? Now, I'm going to ask you one question. I want you to reflect on this: is how might we make audit requests less painful for clients? We all face this, and we how can we make this less painful so that they feel guided and supported rather than overwhelmed by long checklists? We saw this earlier also, right? That how can we make this less painful? Because in the empathize phase, we saw they are reluctant to give because they have this feeling that they're making a mistake, maybe that they may get exposed, or it's a long list, they don't know the why, the jargons which they're not able to understand. So what actually we can do, we can break the request into small batches instead of one long list, right? Then other could be like we can share the formats or examples with each request. We can share a visual tracker as we just saw also with color coded progress bar, green for received, right? Again, yellow or red for not received. And we should have a kickoff call before sending the list. Before you're sending this is a draft, just call, right? Definitely a schedule call, and you will share that what you're going to send and what is this meant for, why it is meant for. And it should not happen that everybody in your team is making calls, right? There should be one single point of contact who should be interacting with the clients, right? Who's chasing for the documents, one person. And instead of having the long email threads, I would suggest that save this in the Google Drive or in the shared folder. It becomes easier for everyone to access those documents, right? So great ideas, as I mentioned here, it often comes from focusing on clients' needs, clients' comfort, not only on our efficiency, right? So there are many areas we can think of where we can ideate solutions. We can apply this, and I'm sure we can come up with something which will meet the needs of our clients, right? Now, what are prototypes? Prototypes are like literal meaning sampling, for example, right? So this involves we are making, this could be a small, could be a sample templates, could be even financial models or demo dashboards, right? So what you're doing, you're actually testing small, low cost. These are very tangible, small, low cost solutions we are testing with one of the clients before you want to scale them up. You want to check whether this is meeting the need of my client or not, right? So you can demonstrate value to the clients very quickly. So this encourages innovation, experimentation. So this does not mean that we have invested cost in just building one prototype. No, this could be even a cardboard with the help of glue, or even as in for products and for services. This could be, for example, a sample flow chart or a sample template of emails, for example, or demo dashboards you can use, right? Example I've given here is, for example, uh, you are working on the effectiveness of a communication system of your client, right? So what you can do, you can actually test with a sample email template, or you can just give one page summary wherein you can mention that this is the format of tax notice, and it includes what does this notice mean, what do you need to do, and why do you need to do, right? One more thing is by when you should be doing it. This should be also there, right? So it could be only a template or one page summary. So that you can check this with one of the clients. And if this works well, you will check this with many clients, which will happen in the next stage, right? And here, whatever inputs we're getting from the client, incorporate it, refine your solution, and then we can move to the next step. For example, here in the example of prototype, I want to hear if you had to prototype, say, a better GST reconciliation process, right? This also we face. You want to test this with one of the client that a better reconciliation process is. So what's the simplest test version you could try tomorrow? Maybe something which is very low cost, something which is very quick and easy to try with one client. Okay, so I will show you what we can do. Again, we can have a tracker with color coded themes, right? Green, for example, which has been reconciled, red for a mismatch. So we can have an Excel tracker, simple Excel tracker. So these are what? These are low cost solutions and can be tried and It can be tested very quickly before scaling this up. Another could be a weekly summary emails to clients showing up top mismatches. Or we can share a one-page sample report highlighting only high-risk invoices, right? Or maybe we can give WhatsApp reminder group for GST deadlines and mismatch alerts, right? So these are certain things which can be used as prototype, because we need not to have a very tech-heavy or very perfect kind of prototype. It should be something which can be done at a very low cost, and it should be able to test the idea very quickly, right? So this was about prototype. Now, for example, your client has liked your prototype, but then he has or she has some inputs. So you have incorporated those inputs, you have refined the solution, you are moving to the last stage of design thinking, which is take the prototype to stakeholders, right? To multiple stakeholders, you will gather their feedback, you will refine. See, any failure, if you get, it is actually the feedback. So again, what do? You are iterating until the solution fits. So you go through the process again, empathize, define, or maybe yes, from test, you can come back to prototype, refine it, again, go back to test, right? Since this is an iterative process. Example I've given here is you can test the audit checklist with 3 clients. Maybe the feedback which they have shared is that the checklist is good to go. However, you should also attach some sample formats. So what do? You actually add the sample formats, and this makes the entire process smoother. You know what? If we skip the test stage, we think that prototype is good enough and we're good to go. What will happen? If we are not checking this on multiple clients before mass rollout, in that case, we have the risk of wasting our effort, wasting our time, wasting our energy, right? So what will happen? It will result in poor adoption and wrong assumptions. So this will drastically fail. So all the stages in the design thinking are really important, and we should follow all the steps, right? Now, again, I would like you to quickly scan the QR code and access the case study quickly. And I'll go to the case study. Scan it quickly, please. And then I'll read this out for you. I hope you have scanned, and I'll stop sharing here. I'll go to the Google form now. Okay, give me a moment. Okay. I hope you can see my case study too. Kindly share your response, and I will quickly read this out for you. This is about this case study too. Okay. And this talks about, the heading is improving client communication and audit engagements, right? This is about improving client communication. The focus is on improving the client communication and audit engagements, right? So it talks about the CA firm. It handles statutory audits for mid-sized companies. And one of the recurring problem here is clients often delay providing information. Okay. So this could be invoices, contracts, ledgers. And what happens? This causes last minute pressure on audit teams. The clients complain that the CA firm is too demanding and they're not very clear about what is needed. The young CAs, they feel stuck between keeping clients happy and meeting audit deadlines. So what can we do here? How can we apply design thinking? I'm very happy to see the response here. Okay, the response we've got. And audit engagement letter has to be clearly understood by both the parties. Wonderful. focus should be on the process. Superb, superb, superb. Okay, I want some more responses, please. No responses, right or wrong. Yes, I could see another one. Simpler templates explaining why data is important and consequence of non-compliance. Superb. Okay, now let me take you through this case study, and I would focus on the 5 stages which we have just talked about. So first is that we need to empathize. We need to, according to the design thinking phases, first is empathize. Empathize is understand that why there is a delay in the information. So as we've discussed already, same thing. There could be many reasons, right? Maybe they have not understood the why. Maybe they have this fear of sharing the information which they think that they've done a mistake and they don't want to get exposed to, or they're overworked, right? So first is that we need to, there are 5 responses. Superb. Provide a checklist to be followed, gentle reminders, contact point. All of them is correct. What I'm doing, I'm only paraphrasing, right? So first stage is about empathy. Empathy is understanding the real pain points which could happen through discussion, right? And when you shadow them, so then you can see that yes, they are overwhelmed. So and the frustration is from both the sides. The clients are not clear of the request, right? They're under tremendous pressure, and the junior staff, they are also under time pressure, repeated follow-up, and they have this apprehension that my relations may get strained, right? So there is the pain areas are from both the sides, from client sides also, and from the junior staff level side also. Now, what will you do? We will, after empathizing, we will define the problem statement. Now, what will happen here? Uh, After looking into the pain areas, we will define the problem as our clients and staff, they need a very simple, more transparent and collaborative way of sharing audit information that reduces back and forth communications, and this saves time and builds trust. I repeat, our clients and staff, they need a very simple, more transparent and collaborative way of sharing audit information that reduces back and forth communication, this saves times, and this helps in building trust, right? So do you think this problem statement is captures both the sides of needs? Yes, it does, right? Uh, because in the client side, the request is, they say that the request is not clear, and the staff, they're saying that uh, because the repeated follow-up, they end up wasting their time, effort, and energy, right? So once the problem statement is clear, then we need to ideate. So ideation could be a long 1-page checklist, and we can have different categories. We like different categories, maybe like invoices, contracts, or bank statements. And second could be like we can have color coded tracker, as we discussed. So green could be submitted, red could be pending, and we should have an engagement meeting where the CA explains why. Why is very important. If why is clear, they will be more than happy to support us, right? So why, please, we should ensure that we should have these kind of pre-engagement meeting where we should explain why each item is needed. And we should have, as we've discussed earlier also, we should have SPOC as single point of contact instead of multiple staff reaching out and chasing off for the documents, right? Once this is done, then what do? You use the new checklist and the tracker with the client. You share the documents via share folder instead of the long back and forth email threads. And then you hold a small meeting, a kickoff meeting to clarify the doubts before sending the email, right? If there is any input from the client, you just incorporate, you refine the solution, and then you check with other clients if they have similar kind of challenge, right? They may ask for additional things. We need to incorporate that, and then we can do the mass rollout. So these are the steps which we can follow while handling these kinds of case studies, right? And thank you so much for responses. I can see that 7 responses as of now. So this makes it very active, a batch of very active learners, right? And this makes it really engaging. Now I will move towards my uh, presentation, very quick presentation now. So this is about, I wanted to ask you that how can you innovate services in your areas, right? For example, if it is audit innovation, what will you do? Because design thinking, this empowers your accountants to reframe their service portfolio fundamentals. So what problems are we solving? We need to see that what problems are we solving. Say, so you're making a shift from being technically compliant to understanding the needs of our customers or our clients and ensuring and thinking about the fact that what is the need of our client and what problems are we solving. Say, for example, we want to innovate your audit services which we provide to clients, okay, internal, external, anyone. Now, see, the challenge is like they see audits as compliance heavy. They see this as very time consuming and they see it as very stressful event. So what can be done? I've not written all the steps of design thinking. I have just focused on the ideation part, that what could be the possible solutions here, right? But then I would suggest you when you're doing it, it is only for the sake of this session, I've just focused on ideation. Otherwise, I would request you to go through all the 5 phases. Only then you can reach to the conclusion, which will definitely meet the need of your client, right? So here, what could be the possible solution? The possible solution could be we can have mini reviews, right? Quarterly mini reviews, which can, which will instead of building the entire year-end pressure, apart from the year-end audits, we should have mini reviews, which will give them an idea that where are they lagging behind. And we can create a visual dashboards of audit findings. Again, the color-coded things which we talked about, that these are the findings which we saw. So this is okay, is green, orange is something which is they need to look at, and where is something which is a big risk and they need to look into it. It is very much, it should be on the top right in terms of action. So when we are sending a 40-page or a lengthy audit report, in addition to the report, what we should do as an advisor, as a trusted advisor, we should also create a one-pager key risk snapshot, right, with color coding, which is very easy for the board to act, along with the simplified summary that these actions needs to be taken, right? So because they all wants to see that, okay, what action do I need to see, where I am doing really well, where it needs a moderate kind of attention, and where what are the loopholes where it needs major focus, right? So if you're adding, what are you doing actually? You're not replacing the audit report. In addition to the audit report, you are giving them a one-page key risk snapshot with color coding, which is for them, it is very easy to see, and it will give them a very quick idea that where are they doing well, where they lag behind, right? Similarly, if we want to simplify the tax, because they see the clients, they see the taxation as very complex, very overwhelming, intimidating, right? Because they fear penalty, they don't understand the jargons, they don't understand the notices, and definitely they dislike the surprises. Again, we all dislike the surprises, right? Again, I'm focused on the aviation part here. So what we can do, we can have uh, a tax calendar roadmap, right? When I say tax, I'll show you a sample also. A tax calendar roadmap for every client, wherein we can give them a personalized reminders of the key dates, right? So what we are doing actually, we are translating the tax positions into FAQs also. So two things if you do, it will simplify there. What is the FAQ? I'll show you that. We know the full form is frequently asked question, but then how can we actually relate to it? So what happens, example here is a client when he gets an income tax office. So in addition to the reply draft, a CA can give a one pager which talks about what does this notice mean, what do these jargons means, what you are supposed to do, and what how will you do it, right? So this will also come in the FAQ. So this actually reduces their stress of the client and it improves clarity, right? So see here, for example, traditional way is like we send the ad hoc reminders for GST, TDS, advanced tax, and findings. But then what would be the innovative approach? It could be if you share a personalized calendars with client, highlighting deadlines, like GST filings is on 20th of this month, TDS is on 7th, advanced tax on 15th, annual ROC is by 30th September. Obviously, this will not be written, this will be in the form of Excel. Just for the sake of understanding this for this session, I've put it this way. Another is, for example, some technical memos like as per section 194Q, TDS at 0, 0 0.1% on purchase exceeding rupees 50 lakhs effective from 1st July 2021. So if a layman's look at this, may not be able to make out everything out of it. So what we can do, we can convert this into frequently asked questions. So there could be 4 questions out of this. For example, does this really apply to me? Yes. Why it applies? Because the purchase is exceeding 50 lakhs. What he needs to do is he needs to detect the TDS, right? By when? At the end of the payment of credit. What if I miss? What will happen? You will face penalties, disallowance, right? So if we are able to convert this technical memos into plain language, simple language, frequently asked questions, it will be much easier for the client to understand, right? It will release them from the stress or from the kind of intimidating feeling they get once they get these kind of notification, right? Similarly, if you give them a tax calendar roadmap with the reminders of period, it will make their life simpler. I'm sure you are able to take a note of these points, and I'm sure through this you will be able to innovate your services, right? So I would like you to think of one service which you currently provide, and how would you apply the design thinking principles to make it more effective, to make it more client friendly, right? Be it internal or be it external. So that is about you to think. And with this, I'm going to move to a quiz. Design thinking something is this is very important that lets you move from service provider to solution partner, or from being just technically compliant to trusted advisor, right? And please quickly scan the QR code. We are running out of time also. And scan the QR code, 30 seconds we have, or you can go to slido.com and enter #1797411. Okay, I'm sure you have scanned it. And the question is, in design thinking, very easy question, which stage involves defining the real problem? Okay, it may take maybe 1 second or 2 seconds, not more than that. I hope you've answered. You know the answer. The answer is in question itself, right? Okay, with this, I'm moving to the solution, and let me see. Okay, so what is the answer? I could not see any response from the participants, I think. What is the answer here? The answer we all know, defining, and it falls under the defined stage, right? After empathize, there comes second stage, which is the defined stage, and that is the correct option. Okay, again, we see congratulations, IBS Raju and Vinakal. Thank you for attempting and thank you for giving the correct answer. Wonderful performance. Let's move ahead now. And I'll skip this for the time being. Maybe we'll come to this later. And I'm going to negotiation skills. Negotiation skills, I wonder if I have to ask you, how many times do we really negotiate in a day? Any idea? We negotiate maybe at times 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, depending on the situation. You know that? That is very interesting to know. When we get up in the morning, right, and we are supposed to go for a walk, we negotiate with ourselves. Should I go for a walk today? Should I not go for a walk today? Right? So there are two different contrasting thoughts going in mind. When we go for the work, which dress to wear? What should I have in my breakfast? Right? Which part to take? Which client to meet? What kind of discussion? So there's so many things which goes inside our in our daily life where we are negotiating. We are not even realizing that, right? So negotiation skills is a part and parcel of our life. Maybe before joining the session, you may have negotiated even 10 times or 15 times, right? So these are all not work related. It will be a mix of both personal and professional negotiations, which we face day in, day out. For example, with teams, you negotiate for deadlines, right? And maybe for regulators, you negotiate for the extension of deadlines, right? You negotiate with clients for the fees. So there's so many things which you do, which we all do. So studies even suggest that on an average, people engage in dozens of small negotiations daily, from deciding what to eat to splitting household chores to agreeing on deadlines at work, right? So this is good to know information. And we often don't realize that we are negotiating because this has become part and parcel of our life. So as I said, maybe you have already negotiated before 10 times, maybe 15 times before joining this session, right? So what is actually negotiation skills? Negotiation skills is an art of reaching to the outcome which is mutually beneficial to both the parties, right? This is not only about winning, this is more about trust, more about being ethical, more about developing sustainable relationship with our clients or with our professional network, right? So as I was saying, it is about reaching outcomes that are mutually benefit. So it is not only about winning, it goes far beyond winning. So it is about building sustainable professional relations. And this actually balances many components like persuasion, and there are three components. I don't know whether you're aware of. There are three components called as ethos, pathos, and logos. It's not mentioned here, but then I'll quickly tell you. Ethos is something which talks about your credibility, right? And it is not built in a day. Pathos is something which is related to the emotional control or the emotions, right? And logos is something which talks about the logic. How logically were you able to place your argument? So it also involves active listening, very active listening. How will you frame your arguments? Are you looking for I win, you lose, or are you looking for a win-win situation, right? So, for example, negotiating audit fees, it should balance, we'll see this as an example, we should balance fair compensation with the client's budget. Now, negotiation is actually equal to is ethical agreement building. And how? That's the reason I purposefully raised this slide to tell you that it's not about only winning, but then it is winning with trust and transparency, winning by focusing on the interests of both the parties. Winning it should not be only a one-time activity, but it should be sustainable with integrity, and it should see us as a trusted advisor, which is our professional duty. Now I want your focus. Maybe you know this already, but then this is very interesting, and I'll show you a video also on this. The scenario is if you only had one orange and there were two people who wanted it, how would you split? The obvious answer which comes to everybody's mind mostly is you split the orange into two and give one half to one and give the other half to the another person, right? But then the story completely changes. And this talks about how we should move from the position to the interest, right? So here what we should do, that we should be asking what is the purpose of taking the orange for one person and what is the purpose of taking the orange for another person? Why do they really need it, right? So this is based on orange story principle. And it talks about, as I said, there are two people they're fighting. And after questioning the it was uncovered that one person needs the juice, another person needs the peel. And if they would have talked or if they would have discussed, then both could have won. So this talks about the very important criteria of negotiation skill when you're negotiating. We should move from the position, means move from the statement to uncover the hidden needs of the party, of the other person, right? So why does he need the orange? Maybe you should not use the word why, because when we hear why, we are slightly reluctant. So maybe you can reframe the question as, what is the purpose of taking this orange? What are you planning to do with this orange? If one person only needs to peel, another needs the juice. So it will lead to what win-win situation. But then without having a dialogue, only having the data, you cannot reach to this situation. And this is exactly what we must do with our clients, banks, and regulators. That we should be asking questions. We should be moving from data to dialogue, building conversation, where we can really uncover the reason uh, behind the challenge which you're facing, or the event or the discussion which you're going to happen, right? And why this matters for us, it is not only about discussing the fees of the contracts. There's about many other things. You discuss, um, you have negotiation with your clients. This is regarding the scope of the work also, at times about the deadlines, right? And when you negotiate with bank, it could be credit statement, assessment, or long terms, loan terms for, if you're working, working with the team, they're working on the project, so you negotiate about the workload, about the timelines, right? When you're negotiating the regulators, you talk about the deadlines, right? The timelines being extended, or you talk on behalf of your client as well. So this is an important skill which we all must possess, right? Because this is very much required in all the areas of our work life, definitely in the personal life as well. Now, what are the core criteria or core components of negotiation skills, right? See, first point we have discussed already, which is moving from positions to interests. This talks about that we should move from the point where people they say that I want this. For example, I want the orange in the earlier case we saw, right? To understand that what actually the real need is. What they're saying, it may not be the need. So we need to uncover, and this could only happen if we get into a conversation, if we ask questions, right? For example, here you can see the example is when a client says reduce fees by 20%, we need to explore what is the reason behind it, what is their real interest, right? Why the client is saying that reduce the fees by 20%? Is it because of the constraint in the budget, or is it because they're not perceiving high value in the deliverables which you're giving, right? So they're giving less value or low value to the deliverables, or maybe they have the timing issues with the cash flows, right? So we need to explore that what could be the reason, and only then we can move ahead if you move from positions to interest. Now, second is price to value. So we need to shift our discussion from cost reduction to value creation, right? For example, if somebody is saying that you are too costly, right? So we need to first understand what is the reason, uncover, and then we should show our value. So instead of defending the high fees, we should articulate specific benefits like compliance, uh, risk mitigation, credibility enhancement with stakeholders, time savings, and future penalty prevention we can discuss, right? So if you're erasing what all may happen, so this is the value I'm creating for you, right? So we need to move from price to value. So these two are really important. And then definitely when we're talking about data, move from data to building conversations. Like this, and active listening throughout is very important. If you'll not listen actively, you can't make out, you cannot uncover the hidden truth. You cannot propose your value, right? Until unless you understand the concerns of the other party. So because this includes the genuine understanding of the concerns and constraints. And uh, fourth point is, which is very important in negotiation, that we should figure out a solution which addresses the needs of both the parties. It should not be I win or you lose. You may win once, but then you may not be winning every time. If the other party has got this feeling that they have lost it and you won it. So it is not about tricks. So we should find the solution that addresses everyone's need rather than the zero-sum compromise. Maybe if they've not agreed fully to your audit fees, maybe they can enhance the phases, right? So we can offer the flexible payments or as the phase service delivery, or you can um, talk about additional value added services or maybe alternative fee structures that work for all the parties. So we need to look for a way wherein the parties, they should get a win-win creation, right? So all these 4 points are really important. And now let's move ahead. Again, I will say that scan the QR code quickly, please. Scan the QR code and let's go to the case study. It's very easy and very genuine that a CA firm has proposed 5 lakh audit fee and the client says it is too high. We will go with someone cheaper. So what will you do? This is something which happens we face, right? I'll stop sharing here and I will go to the case study in my Google form. And I hope we have scanned the QR code, right? Let me go to the case study, which is very easy, but then yes, something which is very relatable. We can relate to it. Right? I want to see the responses also, my friends. I request all of you to start responding. Small case study. Right? So what will we do? First is here, we'll move from position to interest. Right? So when a CA partner is saying our fee is 5 lakhs, CFO might say it is too high. We'll go with someone who's offering us cheaper service. So we need to figure out what's the real concern. So the CFO's real concern, after discussion, it was figured out. The CFO's real concern is there is a pressure from the board to cut cost. And the CA's real concern is increase audit scope and liability risk, right? So what kind of dialogue we can have? For example, CA can say, I hear your concern on the cost, right? May I ask, what's the board most worried about? So CFO may come up and they say that they don't want cost to rise too much, right? So what will you do? You will move from price to value. So you can say that a lower fee may look good today, but if audit misses even one compliance risk, the penalties or the reputation damage could be far greater, right? So what we bring here is assurance and protection, and that is the real value, right? And we will be actively engaged in the listening, in the conversation. We'll try to move from data to dialogue, right? And for example, the data approach here could be the peer firm charges 5 lakh. This is the market rate. But then the dialogue approach will be, we need to engage in building the conversation, show the understanding. And the CFO may say another firm quoted only 4.5 lakh. So the CMA said that I understand. Let's discuss what's important beyond the number. Do you want minimum compliance or assurance that satisfies your board and investors? Right? So you can give this kind of questions wherein they have a chance to reflect and they can see that what kind of value are you bringing. So another is that the last stage I would say is we should aim for win-win. We should explore flexible solutions for both sides to protect their interest. So the phased interest would be from, so we can have the phase increase, and this could be like 4.75 we can quote this year and rupees 5 lakh next year we can quote. And we can add advisory insights like quarterly review, risk dashboard at no extra cost initially. We can highlight on the continuity, we can highlight on the trust and the smoother audit process, right? So we can say, for example, here is what we can do. Keep this year fee closer to your budget and include a quarterly risk update for your board. Next year, we can revisit the scope. This way, you show cost control and we assure quality assurance, right? So what is the point here? The point here we are making is that a good negotiation ends with both sides feeling respected and protected. So negotiation is not about cutting the pie. It is more about making the pie bigger as both the sides win, right? And I hope I was able to make sense and I can see here the responses. And wow, wonderful. Great value, negotiate the fee by creating win-win situation, explain and listen, share your services, quality, super. This is about delivering value. Provide our value propositions, again about, so you're moving from positions to price to value, right? And positions to interest. This is non-negotiable for quality and experience, which we bring to this audit engagement. However, the point is that it should be a win-win situation, right? So it may be even a phased increase also in the audit field, right? So why do you think that this negotiation skill is really important in the age of AI? Right? When AI is doing everything, why do you think that this is really important? You know why it is important? It is important because we have discussed about of it. AI can process data and it gives us the output uh, based on the data which is fed into the tool, right? But then AI cannot do the active listening. It cannot bring ethical judgment. It cannot empathize, right? It cannot build trust in relationship. That is our advantage. That's the advantage of human, that we can build trust in relationship. We can interpret underlying interest beyond stated positions. And we are the one who can ensure that the conclusions or decisions which we're drawing are ethical, justifiable, and which creates innovative win-win solutions, right? So that's the reason negotiation in the age of AI is really important, because it is not only about processing data, but it's more about building conversation, building discussions, right? Moving from price to value, moving from positions to interest, right? AI could be very good, could be excellent, very fast, very accurate in terms of analyzing finance data, in terms of calculating the risk scores. They analyze the risk patterns, even predicts the risk, right? They can suggest tax strategies. But then, yes, they cannot build relationship. They cannot build trust. They cannot interpret the underlying motivation. What is the hidden truth? What somebody is saying is the truth, or there is something else. Is it, I want the orange, or is I want the juice, or I want the peel, right? Uncovering that. This is an example. I'm giving you this example so that you can relate to, right? And with this, we have come to another quiz, right? I would request you to quickly scan the QR code or go to slido.com and type in hash 1797411. 1797411. This multiple choice question, right? One, it will take only 10 seconds. And I have given you 30 seconds, but it will take only 10 seconds. Which of these is a shift in modern negotiation? I request all of you to scan the QR code and answer this. You all know this. What is the correct answer? Only one of it is the correct answer. Okay, 10 seconds, 9, countdown is begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let me see who all has responded. Oh, all of the above. Superb. Superb. All of the above. Is it? Positions to interest, price to value, data to dialogue. Okay. And wow. Again, I see the same numbers. Again, congratulations, Ivis, Raju, and Renakal. Thank you so much. Thank you for the attempt and for scoring wonderfully, right? Oh, okay. Now I want to ask. Now we've seen three different components of thinking skills, right? Critical thinking, design thinking, negotiation skills. So how do you think they complement each other? They do complement each other, right? Because, and see how they're different also. You will see critical thinking, it focuses on analyzing information, right? It talks about questioning those assumptions which is impacting the result, right? And for example, a CA questions why receivables are rising and it discovers the poor credit controls. However, design thinking, the structured process, it is about problem solving through innovative ways, and to apply empathy, creativity, and keeping the user in the center. So example, you've seen many examples instead of a long audit checklist, we may create a visual tracker for documents. So this actually helps us to solve the problem in a creative way, in an innovative way, right? Critical thinking, however, allows us to see the problem clearly. And negotiation skills, this ensures that we are creating a win-win situation and our solution is accepted and valued. So when we apply all these three, they complement each other, and this help us in solving the problems, decision making, and giving the advice when we are doing in other areas in taxation, audit, advisory. This will help you and this will definitely amplify your productivity, right? So this is, I will quickly show you the negotiation skills video. Just give me a moment, please. One moment, let me. Wait, let me share.
Hey guys, in this video we are going to talk about the difference between positions and interests and why it's so valuable to keep this distinction in mind when you're involved in a negotiation. I want that orange. Well, I want that orange. Okay, I know what we've got to do. Oh yeah? What's that? Whoa! No. I just want to cut the orange in half. Okay. Well, I seem to have gotten what I wanted. Sayonara, loser. Hey guys, in case you're new here, my name is Hayden Richards and I am an emergency physician. And this is ConsLab. On this channel, I share my journey and what I've learned as I strive to develop myself into an effective communicator and an emotionally intelligent leader. The content for this video is largely derived from the book Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury. Fisher and Ury even use this very specific orange situation as an example to demonstrate the difference between positions and interests. Let's take a look at positions first. The negotiations literature tells us that positions are surface statements of where a person stands. For example, I want that orange. Well, I want that orange. In the scenario we've just witnessed, both parties were very clear about their position, and they stuck to their positions. As a result, they were left in a situation where they were forced to choose between a winner-takes-all outcome versus a case of splitting the difference, or splitting the orange to be more accurate. Okay, let's talk about interests now. Interests are the reasons and motivations behind those positions. Let's just imagine what would have happened if even one of the participants had shown some curiosity for the other's interests. Hang on a sec. Can I just check something with you? Sure. This might seem like a silly question, but do you mind if I ask, what do you want the orange for? Oh, I just need the peel to put in my super duper orange cake mix. Well, that's interesting, because I actually don't need the peel. I just want the juice for a tasty, refreshing snack. Oh, really? Well, then I guess it makes sense for us to get the juice out first, and then I can take the peel and I can use that in the cake mix. Now, in this case, by focusing on the interests, the result was that both parties were able to double their respective outcomes from the negotiation, which is actually a pretty big argument against the idea of splitting the difference. Okay, for those of you who have made it this far through the video, which is essentially just a film of me negotiating with myself over an orange, I wanted to give you a little bonus. Let's take a closer look at the question that changed the whole course of this conversation. This might seem like a silly question, but do you mind if I ask, what do you want the orange for? Notice the deferential tone here and the use of the word what. Now, I've taken a leaf out of Chris Voss's book here. The thing is, the question could equally have been, why do you want the orange? But Chris actually warns against using the word why. He says that in his experience as a hostage negotiator, the word why is much more likely to trigger defensiveness than if you start your open questions with either a what or a how. Now, Chris bases this advice on literally decades of experience of dealing with terrorists. And even though I don't have any empirical evidence to back this up, it actually does match my experience very closely. Okay, so now that we've grasped the distinction between positions and interests, how do we leverage that understanding to reframe our roles from adversaries to partners? That's what we're going to talk about in the next video. Thanks for watching.
So with this, we have come to the closure of the session. And a big thank you to all the participants. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. Right, and any questions you want to ask?
I think there's no question in chat box.
Uh-huh.
So we can conclude our session here, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It's a very great pleasure me to give vote of thanks to you, ma'am. So it has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful webcast on thinking skill in the age of AI, organized by the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee of ICI. On behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, Bhavna Kumari ji, sorry, for her enlightening session. A wide round of applause and thanks to the organizer of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee of ICI, our today's speaker Bhavna ji, and other stakeholders made this webcast a memorable one. Finally, we would like to thank all of you present here and helping us make this webcast a grand success. Thank you one and all. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was indeed a real pleasure to connect with all of you, to all the brilliant minds here, and share my thoughts. In case if you want to connect further for any question, please do feel free to connect. And I would request to all of you to not only take this as a learning, but then apply this in your real life. Only then you can see the real difference in you, right? Thank you once again. A grand applause for everyone, for each of you, for the grand participation. And indeed, my heartfelt, my sincere thanks to Sambit sir, to Pragya ma'am, to entire PSCC committee for this opportunity. It was indeed a real pleasure for me to deliver this session. Thank you so much.